The fairy and the witch's apprentice beneath the canopy of the Elderwood, the world felt timeless, as though it had never known the touch of man's hands. The air shimmered with soft luminescence, the glow of unseen things that whispered secrets to those willing to listen. Here, amid the labyrinth of twisted roots and vines, lived Sylva, a fairy whose wings shimmered with hues that seemed borrowed from dawn and dusk alike. She was a guardian of the forest, a weaver of magic whose songs coaxed the flowers to bloom and the rivers to sing. Tonight, the forest was unusually quiet. The moon hung low, veiled by thin clouds, and the wind carried an edge of unease. Sylva stood in a clearing draped in moonlight, her voice rising in a melody so pure it seemed to stitch the night together. The petals of the moonflowers unfurled in response, their silver glow casting faint shadows. But something stirred at the edge of her vision. Sylva's song faltered as the rustling of leaves grew louder. She turned, her iridescent wings fanning out instinctively, catching the faintest glimmers of starlight. From the shadows emerged a figure cloaked in midnight, her movements deliberate but wary. "I mean no harm," the figure said, her voice low and soft, like the wind threading through the trees. Sylva narrowed her eyes, but did not retreat. "Who are you to trespass here, in a place hidden from human sight?" The girl stepped into the light, revealing a face pale and sharp, framed by dark curls. Her hands, calloused and ink-stained, clutched a tattered grimoire bound with faded sigils. "My name is Althea," she said, her tone cautious yet earnest. I didn't know anyone else would be here." Sylva hovered closer, her wings humming with the faintest ripple of magic. "Humans do not wander here without purpose. You seek something. Speak, or the forest will decide your fate." Althea's lips parted as though to answer, but she hesitated. Her fingers tightened around the book, and for a fleeting moment, Sylva saw something flicker in her eyes. Fear, yes, but also a deep, aching loneliness. "I'm an apprentice," Althea admitted at last, her voice barely above a whisper. "To Morganna, the witch of the Eastern Hollow." The name struck Sylva like a bolt of ice. Morganna, a name steeped in dread, spoken only in hushed tones by those who dared to remember. A witch whose magic had scarred the Elderwood, and whose power lingered like a poison in its roots. "And yet, here you are," Sylva said, her tone sharper now, "far from your mistress's domain." Althea nodded, her gaze fixed on the ground. I couldn't stay. Morganna's magic is a cage, and I need to break free." Sylva studied the girl carefully. There was truth in her words, but truth alone did not earn trust. "Why should I believe you? Witches and fairies have been enemies since the dawn of time. Althea met her gaze, her expression resolute. Because I came here seeking hope, not destruction. Because Morganna has taken everything from me, and I refuse to let her take my soul. Sylva's wings fluttered faintly, her own memories stirring like leaves in a storm. She wanted to turn the girl away, to protect the sanctuary of the forest from whatever trouble followed her. But there was something in Althea's eyes, a kind of desperation Sylva understood all too well. For a long moment, silence stretched between them. Then, Sylva let out a soft sigh. "You will meet me here again, Apprentice," she said, her voice edged with warning. "But know this, if your presence brings harm to the forest, you will not live to see its consequences." Althea inclined her head in a gesture of solemn gratitude. "I understand." With that, Sylva turned and disappeared into the night, her glow fading into the depths of the forest. Althea remained in the clearing for a while, the grimoire heavy in her hands. As the moonflower's light began to wane, she whispered into the night, "Thank you." Unseen by either, the shadows around the clearing seemed to stretch and twist, as though the forest itself had begun to listen. The days that followed their first meeting passed like a dream, half real and half shadowed by the weight of unspoken truths. Sylva waited in the enchanted clearing, the moonflowers blooming faithfully at her song's command. She told herself it was curiosity that brought her back, not trust, and certainly not concern. When Althea returned, cloaked once more in midnight, the air between them felt different. Her presence disturbed the stillness of the clearing, the ancient magic of the place rippling faintly as though sensing a foreign thread. "Why do you keep coming here?" Sylva asked, perched on a low-hanging branch. Her wings, shimmering faintly in the twilight, fluttered in idle suspicion. Althea set the grimoire down on the mossy ground, its faded sigils catching the faint light. "Because I need your help," she said, her voice steady despite the vulnerability in her words. "Morganna's hold on me grows stronger every day. I've tried to break her spells, but her magic..." She faltered, as if the memory of it was enough to sting. "It's rooted in something deeper, something I don't understand." Sylva tilted her head, her eyes narrowing. "Deeper how?" The apprentice hesitated, her fingers tracing absent patterns on the grimoire's leather cover. "It's as though the magic isn't hers alone. When I use the spells she's taught me, it feels like they're pulling from something else, something older." Sylva's wings stilled, her expression unreadable. "Magic like that is dangerous. It doesn't just bind, it consumes." Althea nodded, her shoulders slumping under an invisible weight. "I know. That's why I need to sever the bond before it's too late." She hesitated, then added, "You said the forest would decide my fate." Does that mean it can help me? Sylva laughed softly, the sound tinged with something bitter. The forest does not grant help freely. It takes as much as it gives, sometimes more. Then what about you? Althea pressed, her voice laced with quiet urgency. You're its guardian. You're different. The fairy's gaze turned sharp. I am part of the forest. To help you is to risk unbalancing what I am sworn to protect. Silence stretched between them, broken only by the whisper of leaves stirred by an unseen breeze. Finally, Sylva sighed, her wings folding neatly against her back. But there is something about you I cannot ignore. Perhaps it is foolishness, or perhaps it is fate. Althea's expression softened, hope flickering in her eyes. Thank you. But, Sylva warned, her tone cutting through the fragile moment like a blade. If you betray this trust, the forest will not forgive you, nor will I. The apprentice nodded solemnly. I understand. As the hours passed, the two fell into a strange rhythm. Sylva guided Althea through the forest's hidden paths, her magic illuminating the way. Together, they searched for clues, scraps of ancient spells, faint magical currents that hinted at hidden truths. Yet, as they delved deeper, Sylva began to notice something peculiar. Whenever Althea touched an enchanted flower or ran her fingers along the bark of a magical tree, the colours dimmed ever so slightly. The vibrant glow of the forest seemed to shy away from her, retreating as though sensing a predator in disguise. One evening, as they rested by a shimmering brook, Sylva finally voiced her concern. There's something strange about you, Althea. Something the forest doesn't trust. Althea looked up sharply, her expression guarded. What do you mean? The magic here recoils from you, Sylva said, her tone measured but firm. I've seen it, felt it. Your presence draws energy away from the forest and from me. Althea's lips parted in protest, but no words came. For a moment, she simply stared at her hands, as though they belonged to someone else. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't want to say anything, but I've noticed it too. The more time I spend here, the stronger I feel. And sometimes, it feels like I'm pulling magic from everything around me, whether I want to or not. Sylva's eyes darkened, her wings twitching with unease. That kind of power is dangerous, Althea. If you cannot control it, it will destroy you, and everything else in its path. I know, Althea said, her voice trembling. But what if it's not just me? What if this is part of whatever Morganna has done to me? Sylva hesitated, the weight of her next words pressing heavily on her. Then we must uncover the truth before it's too late. But tread carefully, Althea. The answers you seek may cost more than you're willing to pay. The apprentice nodded, her resolve hardening despite the fear in her eyes. Then I'll pay it, whatever it takes. As the moon rose higher, casting its pale light over the forest, the two unlikely allies pressed on, unaware of the ancient forces stirring in their wake. The whispers of the forest grew louder as Sylva and Althea ventured deeper into its heart. The air seemed denser here, alive with an ancient tension that neither spoke of but both felt. Shadows danced unnaturally across their path, and faint glimmers of light flickered in the periphery of their vision, vanishing the moment they turned to look. Sylva hovered ahead, her wings humming softly as she traced faint ley lines in the earth. Her voice, usually steady and soothing, carried a note of unease. We're close to something old, something that remembers. Althea followed silently, her fingers brushing the bark of trees that seemed to lean away from her touch. She carried the grimoire tightly against her chest, its weight a constant reminder of the magic she both relied on and feared. They reached a clearing unlike any other. The trees here were gnarled and twisted, their branches forming a canopy so thick that not even moonlight could penetrate. At the center stood an ancient oak, its massive trunk scarred with deep grooves that glowed faintly as though burning with an internal light. "This is it," Sylva murmured, her voice reverent. "The heart oak. It holds the forest's oldest secrets." Althea stepped closer, her breath catching as she traced the glowing grooves. Words seemed to shimmer and shift within the bark, forming a prophecy that twisted her stomach into knots. Two souls entwined, like flames that burn, bound by a curse that they must unlearn. Should they part, the forest will die. Only unity can break the lie. Sylva read the lines aloud, her voice heavy with disbelief. She turned to Althea, her expression a mix of anger and fear. This is about us." Althea shook her head, retreating a step. "That's impossible. How could it be? I've never even been here before." Sylva's wings twitched in agitation. "The forest knows more than we do. This curse, it explains everything. Your magic pulling from mine, the forest recoiling from you. We're bound together, Althea. Our fates are tied." The weight of the revelation hit Althea like a physical blow. Her mind raced, trying to make sense of it. But why? How? What does this even mean? Sylva turned back to the heart oak, her fingers tracing the grooves of the prophecy. Her voice was distant, as though speaking to herself. "There's an old legend, the curse of the twin flames, a bond forged by betrayal, binding a fairy and a human, so their fates are forever connected. If one dies, the other follows. If one leaves, the balance of their magic collapses. It's said the curse was created by a fairy queen in vengeance against a human who broke her trust." Althea's voice trembled. You think this is that curse?" Sylva nodded slowly. "It has to be. Your power growing at the cost of mine, the prophecy. It all fits." "But why us?" Althea asked, her hands tightening around the grimoire. "Why would this curse choose us?" Before Sylva could answer, The glow of the heart oak flared, and the grooves shifted, forming new words. Blood remembers, and blood binds. What was broken must be mended, or the forest will fall to shadow. Sylva's face darkened. It's your bloodline, Althea. Morganna's magic. It must be tied to this curse. She's using it to fuel her power, and it's affecting us both. Althea's mind reeled. So what do we do? How do we break it? Sylva's gaze was unwavering. The curse isn't just binding us, it's tying Morganna's magic to the forest. If we don't stop it, everything here could die. We need to sever the bond. But how? Althea asked, desperation creeping into her voice. Sylva hesitated, her wings trembling faintly. There's only one place that might hold the answer. The Forgotten Grove. It's said to be the birthplace of the oldest magic, the only force powerful enough to break a curse like this. Althea swallowed hard. She had heard of the Forgotten Grove in Morganna's whispers, a place shrouded in eternal twilight, guarded by trials that tested the very soul. Few who entered ever returned. What aren't you telling me? Althea asked. Sylva's voice was soft, almost reluctant. The grove doesn't just demand strength, it demands sacrifice. The words hung in the air like a tangible weight. Althea glanced at the heart oak one last time, its glowing grooves fading back into obscurity. If that's what it takes, Althea said, her voice steady despite the fear in her chest, then we'll face it, together. Sylva's expression softened, a flicker of trust passing between them. Together, she echoed. As they left the clearing, the shadows of the forest seemed to deepen, as though the Elderwood itself was bracing for what lay ahead. Unseen by either of them, the glow of the heart oak brightened once more, the grooves shifting again to form a single ominous word: beware. The path to the Forgotten Grove was one that few dared to tread. As Sylva and Althea pressed deeper into the forest, the familiar sounds of rustling leaves and birdsong faded into an unsettling silence. The air grew thicker, weighted by an ancient magic that prickled against their skin. Sylva hovered close to Althea, her wings glowing faintly in the dim light. This part of the forest is alive in ways you can't imagine. It will test us, probe us, and exploit our weaknesses. Althea clutched the grimoire tightly, her resolve hardening. Then we'll face whatever it throws at us. There's no turning back now. As if in answer to her words, the ground beneath their feet shifted. The trees began to twist and contort, their branches weaving together into an impenetrable canopy that plunged them into an eerie twilight. Sylva stopped abruptly, her eyes scanning the distorted terrain. The grove knows we're here, she said softly. This is its first test, the trial of truth. Before Althea could respond, the forest began to hum. A low, resonant sound that filled the air. The shadows around them deepened, coalescing into shapes that writhed and shifted. Slowly they took form, and Althea felt her breath hitch as she stared into the faces of her parents. They looked just as she remembered them. Her mother's soft smile, her father's steady gaze, but their expressions were tinged with sadness. "Althea," her mother said, her voice echoing as though carried from a great distance. "Why did you leave us?" Althea stumbled back, her throat tightening. "You're not real. This is the Grove's magic." Her father stepped forward, his face a mask of disappointment. "We gave everything for you, and you abandoned us. Morganna took you in because we couldn't protect you. You belong to her now." Althea shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. "That's not true. I didn't abandon you. You abandoned me. You left me to her." The spectres faltered, their forms flickering as Althea's voice rose. The humming of the forest grew louder, the air vibrating with tension. Sylva watched silently, her expression unreadable. "You are not real," Althea said again, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her face. "You're just shadows. I won't let you control me." With those words, the spectres dissolved into wisps of smoke, vanishing into the air. The humming stopped, and the forest seemed to exhale. Sylva gave Althea a small nod of approval. "Well done," she said. "But the grove is far from finished." The path ahead twisted again, leading them to a glade shrouded in mist. At its center stood a stone pedestal, atop which rested a single golden fruit. Sylva approached cautiously, her wings shimmering with faint light. "This is a trial of sacrifice. The grove demands an offering to proceed." Althea frowned. "What kind of offering?" "The fruit holds your magic," Sylva explained. "If you take it, the grove will drain your power. You may not recover it." Althea stared at the fruit, her heart pounding. Without her magic, she would be defenseless. But if they didn't proceed, the curse would never be broken. Before she could decide, Sylva stepped forward. "I'll take it." "No," Althea said, grabbing Sylva's arm. "If you lose your magic, you'll fade. The forest needs you." Sylva met her gaze, her expression calm. "And the forest needs you to succeed. This is my duty, Althea." Without waiting for an answer, Sylva reached out and touched the fruit. A flash of golden light erupted from the pedestal, and Sylva's wings dimmed, their usual glow fading to a soft silvery sheen. She swayed but remained standing, her voice steady. "The path is open. Let's go." The final stretch of their journey led them to the heart of the grove. A pool of water so still it resembled a mirror. The surface shimmered with faint images. A fairy queen casting the curse, a human betraying her trust, and two figures, one fairy, one human, bound by flames. "This is the source of the curse," Sylva said, her voice filled with awe. "The grove's magic can break it, but it will demand a price." "What price?" Althea asked. Before Sylva could answer, The pool rippled, and a voice echoed from its depths. One must give their life to shatter the bond. Only then will the curse be undone. Althea's blood ran cold, but she set her jaw. There has to be another way. There isn't, Sylva said quietly. This is the sacrifice the grove demands. The pool shimmered again, its images growing clearer. Time was running out. Althea and Sylva exchanged a glance, their fates now sealed in the reflection of the water. The grove pulsed with an unrelenting energy, as though the very air carried the weight of ancient sorrows. Althea and Sylva stood at the edge of the pool, the shimmering surface reflecting their trembling forms. The voice from the depths had spoken with a chilling finality. One must give their life to shatter the bond. Sylva hovered slightly above the ground, her wings dull and fragile after the sacrifice she had already made. Her gaze met Althea's, her expression steady, yet filled with unspoken anguish. It's clear what must be done, Sylva said softly. This curse was born of a fairy's vengeance. It should end with a fairy's sacrifice. No. Althea's voice was sharp, her fists tightening. You've already given up so much, Sylva. I won't let you do this. Sylva's lips curved into a faint, bittersweet smile. You've said it yourself. Morganna's magic is tied to this curse. If it remains, the forest will fall. Your role is greater than mine now. You are its future. Althea shook her head vehemently, stepping closer to the pool. We don't know that. Maybe there's another way. Maybe we can trick the grove. Or, there is no tricking the grove, Sylva interrupted, her voice firm. This magic predates us both. It demands balance, nothing more, nothing less. The pool rippled again, the images shifting to show the forest in ruin. Trees withering, rivers running dry, and shadows consuming the land. Althea's breath caught as the vision burned itself into her mind. I can't let you do this, she whispered, her voice breaking. Sylva moved closer, her hand brushing Althea's arm in a gesture of quiet reassurance. You can and you must. The forest is my home, my heart. If giving my life will restore it, then it is a price I am willing to pay. Tears welled in Althea's eyes as she searched Sylva's face for any sign of hesitation, any trace of fear. There was none, only resolve and a deep, abiding love for the forest she had sworn to protect. But Althea's heart screamed against it. I'm the one who's cursed, she said, her voice trembling. It's my fault the balance is broken. If someone has to die, it should be me. Before Sylva could respond, the pool erupted with light, blinding them both. The images on its surface twisted violently, revealing a final truth. 2 flames, 1 sacrifice. A bond unbroken even in death. The words echoed in Althea's mind. their meaning striking her like a thunderclap. "A bond unbroken," she murmured. Her eyes widened as realization dawned. "Sylva, it doesn't have to be just one of us." Sylva frowned, her wings fluttering faintly. "What are you saying?" Althea stepped closer to the pool, her voice growing steadier. "If the curse binds us together, then maybe the sacrifice doesn't mean death. Maybe it means giving up who we are together, changing, becoming something new." Sylva hesitated, her gaze searching Althea's for certainty. "That's a risk we can't calculate. We don't know what the grove will do. And we don't know what will happen if we do nothing," Althea countered. "This is our only chance to save the forest. And each other." The pool glowed brighter, as though responding to her words. Sylva closed her eyes for a moment, letting the forest's magic flow through her. When she opened them, she nodded. "Together then." Hand in hand, they stepped into the pool. The water was unnaturally warm, wrapping around them like liquid light. As they moved deeper, the light intensified and the grove's voice echoed once more. "Will you relinquish yourselves to restore what was lost?" "Yes," they said in unison, their voices unwavering. The water surged around them, pulling them into its depths. Memories flashed before their eyes. Sylva's first flight, Althea's stolen childhood, moments of pain, joy, and everything in between. The light grew blinding, and for a moment they felt as though they were dissolving into nothingness. When the light finally dimmed, the grove was silent. The pool had vanished, replaced by a vibrant meadow bathed in golden light. The forest, once shrouded in shadow, seemed to breathe again, its colors richer and its magic stronger than ever. At the meadow's center stood two figures, their forms unfamiliar yet intertwined. Althea and Sylva had become something new, neither fairy nor human, but a fusion of both. Their shared essence pulsed with the forest's magic, their bond unbroken and their sacrifice complete. As the forest whispered its gratitude, they turned to face the future together, their hearts filled with the knowledge that they had not only saved the Elderwood, but rewritten their fates.